Welcome back to another video. Kevin Durant has always been a mystery. He doesn't just play basketball. He changes the balance of the league every time he chooses a new team. From Golden State to Brooklyn to Phoenix, his moves have rewritten NBA history for better or worse. But now, that history feels like a curse. Because just days after Durant joined the Houston Rockets, their entire season was thrown into chaos. Fred VanVleet, the point guard meant to keep everything together, is already gone with a torn ACL. This isn't just another injury story. This is about a superstar whose presence seems to bring disaster wherever he goes, and the possibility that Kevin Durant's final years in the NBA could be remembered not for titles, but for the chaos that followed him. When Kevin Durant left Phoenix for Houston, fans thought this was his fresh start, a chance to put the past behind him and finally silence the critics. Instead, disaster struck before training camp even began. Fred VanVleet, the veteran floor general brought in to steady the Rockets and manage the egos around Durant, is out for the season. For most teams, losing a point guard would be a setback. But for Houston, it's a nightmare. Because with Durant, every stumble feels bigger, every problem feels heavier, and every misstep feeds into the growing narrative that he is cursed. What makes this thing even more is how close Houston seemed to greatness. Just 1 year ago, the Rockets were the second seed in the Western Conference, a team built on hard work, defensive identity, and youthful energy. Alperen Sengun looked like a future All-NBA center. Jabari Smith Jr. was developing into the perfect modern forward. And Fred VanVleet was the voice of reason, the man who made it all work. Adding Kevin Durant was supposed to be the finishing touch, the final piece of the puzzle that turned Houston from surprise contender to title favorite. Instead, his arrival feels like the starting point of another collapse. Durant's on-court ability has never been the issue. The man is still one of the best scorers alive. But at 37, his future is complicated. He's eligible for a 2-year, $122 million max extension, a deal that would tie Houston to him through the twilight of his career. And yet, the Rockets hesitate. Reports say they might only offer $100 million. For Durant, that's not just a pay cut. It's a message that Houston believes he might not be worth the risk. And so once again, KD's future hangs in the balance. Will he commit to Houston and prove he can still carry a team? Or will he keep the door open, waiting for the next escape route? The skepticism surrounding Kevin Durant doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from his history. In Brooklyn, he was supposed to be part of an unstoppable dynasty, alongside Kyrie Irving and James Harden, a trio many believed would redefine offense in the NBA. But that dream unraveled almost immediately. Injuries piled up, off-court drama dominated headlines, and trades eventually tore the team apart. In the end, that so-called super team played just 16 games together before collapsing into one of the biggest what-ifs in league history. In Phoenix, the narrative repeated itself. Durant teamed up with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, forming yet another can't-miss championship contender. But instead of dominance, the Suns cycled through coaches, stumbled in the playoffs, and were ultimately swept out before they ever looked like true contenders. To make matters worse, reports surfaced that Phoenix had even considered moving on from Durant before this year's trade deadline, just 2 seasons after acquiring him. The challenge in Houston is unlike anything Durant has faced before. Throughout his career, he's rarely been asked to be the emotional center of a team. In Golden State, that responsibility belonged to Steph Curry, whose steady presence and charisma kept the Warriors together. In Brooklyn, it was supposed to be Kyrie Irving's job, though chaos quickly derailed that plan. In Phoenix, the expectation shifted to Devin Booker, the franchise's homegrown star. Durant's role was always clear: show up, score, and dominate on the floor, while someone else carried the weight of leadership. But Houston is different. Here, there's no Curry, no Kyrie, no Booker to absorb the pressure. Fred VanVleet, the team's most seasoned voice, is gone. That leaves Durant standing alone, expected not just to produce points, but to set the tone for an entire locker room. He has to be the one teaching a young roster how to navigate the grind of an 82-game season, how to withstand the spotlight of a title chase, and how to stay unified when adversity hits. It's no longer just about his jumper or his efficiency. It's about his presence, his words, and his example. Replacing Fred VanVleet is anything but simple. Reed Shepherd may be brimming with talent and promise, but he's just a rookie, still adjusting to the speed and physicality of the NBA. Handing him the keys to a team with championship aspirations would be asking him to leap years ahead of his development, an almost impossible responsibility for a player barely beginning his career. Aaron Holiday offers steadiness and experience, but there's a reason he spent most of his career as a backup. He can fill minutes, hit shots, and defend his position. But relying on him as the full-time orchestrator of an offense built around Kevin Durant isn't a solution, it's a patch. Then there's Amen Thompson, whose defensive versatility and elite athleticism give Houston a unique edge. But his lack of reliable shooting shrinks the floor and clogs the very spacing Durant thrives on. For a team built around a generational scorer, those limitations become magnified in the playoffs when every possession matters. And so, the whispers have begun. What about Russell Westbrook? The former MVP, Durant's old running mate in Oklahoma City, is still waiting in free agency. His future uncertain. The thought alone feels surreal, because for years, that door seemed permanently closed. Their partnership in OKC was electric, the foundation of a young Thunder team that reached the NBA Finals far earlier than anyone expected. Durant and Westbrook were supposed to grow old together, to bring a championship to Oklahoma. Instead, it ended in heartbreak. Durant's departure to Golden State was seen as a betrayal, and Westbrook's fury became legend. What followed were years of icy silence, subtle jabs, and the narrative of a fractured brotherhood. But time has a way of softening even the deepest scars. Now both men are in their mid to late 30s, battle-tested, scarred by injuries, and still chasing that one last ring. The idea of reuniting in Houston, especially alongside Steven Adams, another beloved member of that Thunder core, would be nothing short of a full-circle moment. The chemistry they once had doesn't need to be invented. It's already there. The bond, though damaged, is undeniable. The scariest part of all this is that Houston doesn't have time. Unlike the rebuilding teams Durant once joined, the Rockets are already all in. They're deep into the luxury tax, bleeding money with every move, and their young stars are quickly approaching the point where rookie-scale bargains turn into massive contracts. Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., all of them will command extensions that could reshape the team's financial flexibility. Add in Amen Thompson, whose own payday isn't far off, and suddenly the clock is ticking louder than ever. This isn't a patient multi-year experiment. This is a one-year shot at glory. The front office didn't bring in Kevin Durant to see what happens. They brought him in to win now, before the window slams shut. Every game, every possession, every playoff series will carry the weight of an organization that knows failure means dismantling. If this season collapses, the roster won't survive another year together. For years, Kevin Durant's career has lived in contradiction. On one hand, he is one of the most unstoppable scorers the game has ever seen. A 7-foot sniper with the handle of a guard and the efficiency of a machine. Few players in NBA history have been able to bend defenses, tilt playoff series, and shift the balance of power in the league the way Durant has. His talent is undeniable. His place among the all-time greats is secure. And yet, when people talk about Durant, the conversation rarely stops at his greatness. It always comes with an asterisk, a shadow, a question of what went wrong. Brooklyn was supposed to be historic, but instead it imploded under the weight of egos, injuries, and drama. Phoenix was built as a modern super team, but it fell apart before it even had a chance to take off. And now Houston, a team betting everything on his presence, already feels the tremors of instability. Durant has always pushed back against the idea that he's the problem, and statistically, he's right. He shows up, he produces, he dominates. His efficiency hasn't faded, his scoring remains elite, and his playoff numbers stack up with anyone's. But reputation is built on more than box scores. It's about perception, about narratives, about the story fans and media carry forward. So now we wait. The Rockets are wounded before the season begins. Durant is older than ever, and his future is uncertain. The Western Conference is stronger than it's ever been, filled with young teams ready to challenge for the crown. Can Kevin Durant finally break the cycle? Can he lead Houston through adversity, prove he's still capable of being the centerpiece of a champion, and end his career on his own terms? Or are we about to watch yet another team collapse under the weight of his presence? One thing is certain, the Rockets' season and Durant's legacy will be defined by what happens next. And that's where things stand. The Rockets were supposed to be Durant's chance at redemption, but before the season even tips off, the narrative feels painfully familiar. Another team, another setback, another question mark hanging over his legacy. Maybe Kevin Durant proves everyone wrong and carries Houston to the promised land. Or maybe, once again, the curse wins. But that's just my take. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is this the beginning of another collapse, or KD's last great chance to rewrite his story? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Until next time.